Hello and welcome to Howard's Cave of Wonder. I'm Chris, aka Howard Blues, welcoming you to my cave. And today, just doing a little hobbying for this. For context, it's Sunday morning. My wife is taking the kids to Sunday school. We tend to go to church Saturday night. And then my wife takes them to Sunday school Sunday morning. And this allows me a little bit of hobby time in the morning, or time to do some other things. But I was going to do a little bit of hobbying, and I needed to make a episode of Howard's Cave of Wonder. So we're going to dive right in and do that. If you're new to the channel, this is my hobby vlog. I share the projects and such that I'm working on. Not meant to be necessarily get something done every time, but just, a chance for me to work on my hobby, chat about other things, news, the things I've picked up, things like that, and a chance to give you something that you can hobby along with. If you're like me, I like having stuff on. I have a TV over on this wall over here, and oftentimes I'll play a podcast or a video from another hobby content creator, and we'll have that on as background noise while I work. And so I try to provide kind of that same thing. So today, what I'm working on, I actually do want to finish something. I am going to get back to good old Bruce. He hasn't been forgotten. I have some next steps I want to do with him. And I'm just not quite ready, and we'll see. We'll probably get to Bruce. But I want to get something off my desk, because I kind of have accumulated now a whole slew of projects over here, and future me will take a photo to show. So what I wanted to focus on, I've had, and if you noticed, if you've been watching for a while, I have a couple different of these terrain pieces. They are from originally Privateer Press's board game Grind, but they re-released them as part of their Riot Quest little skirmish board game. And I've been working on painting them, and I have taken and I have basically applied my rust kind of pattern to it. It looks great. It needs just a little bit of wash and such, and it'll be excellent. So I have the sphere that you can see here, but then I also have this mighty column. So to do that, and for a wash on metal like this, I like using a technique that I learned called shaded metallics. How much is that really just a thing and a technique? I don't know, but it was offered in a class, and then the person who attended that shared it as an online video, but the class was called Shaded Metallics. Anyway, so here's how this works, and I have to laugh. If you checked out the last little vlog that I did, where I was on the road painting, I mentioned that I've done some painting at work. I actually had to do this same shaded metallics bit on a piece that I did for one of the historic sites. I was putting a patina basically on a metal inkwell that when we purchased it, it came in like super shiny, and we wanted kind of to grime it up a little bit. The neat thing about that is, for our agency, I get to write a blog where I share stuff, and usually it's more centric towards my work aspect. But every now and then when I do an interesting project like that, I like to put it in there. And the nice thing about that now is, and this happens, I haven't done a shaded metallics for a little bit, so I kind of forgot exactly what was in the recipe. So I actually went up, looked at my blog, because I wrote about aging that inkwell, and there we go. There's my my paints that I used. So that helps. What I got here, in case you couldn't see it off that image, these are all Reaper paints except for one. One's a Vallejo. But I have Reaper's brown liner. I have their blue liner. So this kind of will add a color to my shade. Kind of between the blue and the brown, it kind of will make this kind of dirty, gunky color that I like. It's a great shade using those two. You then add in this case, some honed steel. One of probably the colors I use the most when it comes to a silver on a miniature, or anytime I want kind of that silver or metallico. This is my go-to. I mean, you can tell just by the lid how many times I've used this, and this is an older one. You can tell by the label. It's seen much love. But you put that in, and this is one of the tips I pulled from it. When you add in that metallic, and I'm not adding a whole lot, but just a little bit, it helps add a little bit of flake to the wash. Because a lot of times when our wash takes and pools and it darkens an area, even with metal that's in shade, it'll still kind of have that metallic glistening effect. Don't ask me why I have a giant pliers here, but again, even in areas of it like this here, this little crevice, you can actually see, like, as I turn the light, it still has a metallic shine to it. It might be dirty and darkened with a little bit of rust, but it still has that shine to it. So putting a little bit of my original metal into it helps carry that forward. The last piece is from Vallejo. It is their gloss varnish. Now, most people don't like using a gloss varnish because it gives most miniatures kind of a wet look. They look too shiny and too slimy. I've used it. I have this ooze monster. He's up over there on the shelf, but I'll put a photo of him in here, and I use that on them to make him look slimy. I've done it for some miniatures that have kind of like their tongue sticking out. I'll maybe use a gloss varnish just in that mouth area so that it has that wet kind of drooly look, even though the rest of the miniature is pretty matte. But in this recipe, the gloss varnish, it's going to do two things. One, it's going to protect kind of the metal or the miniature, but it's going to help that metal shine. It's going to keep that luminosity up. And then just some water so that I can get it to a perfect consistency on my palette. So I got my ugly palette here. If you ever wonder why, like, this palette is looks this way and is so gunky, this one is made out of a really cheap kind of plastic, and so getting it clean, I have tried to clean it, and it just sticks. And so this has just kind of become my ugly work palette. I do have a nicer, although I need to clean it, palette that's a little bit nicer, shinier plastic that usually I can get pretty well cleaned up, but you can tell I've been slacking on my palette cleaning. I'll get to it one of these days. Fun fact, with a nice palette like this, one way that you can clean this that's pretty effective, especially when you have buildup like this, you actually water down some PVA glue and just paint it all over the top, let it dry and harden, and you pick it off, and that glue bonds to the paint, and because the paint doesn't tend to really stick to this plastic, it just pulls it up. It'll probably leave some remnants of it. It's not like a perfect clean, but if you're using a dry palette like this and you have neglected it for a while, you can do that. All right, I gotta shake some paints as we get this rolling. I think I can do all four in one, because I'm going to make this all in one pot. This is going to be just a complete mixture. As for the exact like recipe, like how many drops of this, how many drops of that, I am notoriously terrible at jotting those things down. I once had a notebook that I kept on my desk. In fact, notebook. However, it turned into show notes because I'm notorious for not writing down recipes, and even if I did write down recipes, my ability to duplicate those recipes has proven pretty poor in the past. It's something I have never quite perfected. Give them all a good shake. Let's add them in. So we're going to add a couple drops of the blue liner, a couple drops of the brown liner. And these liner paints are really, really kind of dark. And that's okay, because we're going to thin them down just so that they'll... Wow! You can tell that my my honed steel, I always want to say horned steel, which doesn't make sense, has been well used, because it's got a whole little paint cap going there. How clogged are you? I might need a pokey tool. Good thing I always have a pokey tool handy by. Let's just do that, let it flow. Now, I'm not adding a ton of the by silver color here. I really just want enough to kind of, again, get some shine in there. That's why, if you ever wonder why there's paint on my lid, old ones like that clog. And then we're going to put in, what is it, a couple drops of the gloss varnish. This is going to be a pretty full well. And then quite a few drops actually of that. And then I like to get just a big gunky brush, not one that I care too much about, but we're going to stir that all in. And we want this to kind of have a consistency of a wash. I don't want it to be too thick, which is why I went with quite a bit of water. I'm trying to create a wash, but you can kind of see, if you're looking at that palette, it's got kind of this nice blue shaded color. That brown just helped a little bit in making it kind of dirty, but you can see how it's kind of nicely sloshing around, but it's got a bit of the shine and everything like that. So it will gunk this thing up pretty good. I was wondering why I had so much space. Paint cup. So let's add some water to my brush. And with this, and I'd always say when going at it, and we'll try and show this off a little bit. This miniature is kind of going to test the strength of my sticky tack. So with something like this, I don't necessarily want to paint quite on. I might wick a little bit of it off so it's not too much of a but I really just kind of want to test an area. So like this, the top space, pretty decent. But I'm just going to kind of, as I said, put it on. And what you can see is it's got that nice shaded, kind of dark look to it. And what I really want to hit with this is a lot of the crevices and such. But it just kind of darkens it, puts a little bit of a shine to it. So you can already see it's kind of made it dark with just that rust going through. And I'm going to do just kind of the same thing here. And really, I want mostly to hit kind of the high or the low points. Again, I'm just trying to shade it in. I'm kind of covering it. And it's going to add a nice kind of bluish tint to this. If I wanted it to be more of a brownish tint, I would lay off more of the blue, focus more on the brown and such. So this is just me kind of re-adding in a little bit of a shade and a little bit of a shine, because the rust process that I tend to like using tends to be a little bit dulling. Like it really makes it come off as dull metal, and I don't really want that. And with this, I'm not necessarily even trying to be perfect and get every maybe inch of it. I might kind of try and hit certain areas of certain panels, like this one that's really shiny, and hit there. This kind of has a nice little bit of orange to it. I don't really want to dull that out. I kind of like those pops of color on some of it. So I might avoid some of those orange spots where the rust is really shining through. So really, I'm trying to just be very selective in my painting of this. To, again, just try to enhance the look of it and not necessarily kill off everything I did, but just put a little bit of that kind of shade into it. Like I have this bright chunk of yellow that's here. I might kind of dull that down a little bit because it just, that spot looks off. But again, especially with like rusty metal like this, I mean, it's a great way to just kind of put in some interesting texture in that. And you can give it more than one coat if you need to. But you can see it's having a pretty decent effect on a lot of this rust and such. Again, leaving a few spots, maybe not as quite as heavy, but we're getting a nice kind of shine to it. And I'll just come back around here. I'm just trying to find any spot where maybe it cooled up a little bit much. But when this dries, as I said, it'll have a nice kind of shine to it. But also the rust will shine through and all of that. So there's the column. Now for the one that's going to get me very messy, and that's trying to paint this this sphere. So there's just no great way to hold this and not get done. So again, I wiped a big chunk off on my finger there. It's okay, I'll probably come back in and grab. And again, especially before it dries, if you feel like you've put too much on, you can kind of go in and fix that. But this is a really great one for like darkening. As I said, I like it. It adds a nice kind of shading to the metals that I work with. It works very well with my rust recipe that I like. And here, as I said, I'm going very kind of bluish. But you could, as I said, you could put in more brown and make it more of a dirty brown wash. That's, you know, it kind of comes down to preference and what effect you're trying to get for. I like especially a terrain piece like this, where I don't necessarily want it to, I don't want it to steal the show on the table. I just want it to kind of be there and hang out. And so for that, I like doing, as I said, kind of this more bluish color to it. Because again, it'll help kind of it blend in a little bit and disappear a little bit, but still be a cool enough piece that when you see it on the table, you're like, wow, okay, that's a nice piece of terrain. So I do like these pieces. They're just the whole grind ball and that. And this is really just, as I said, coming out very, very well. So trying to do kind of half of it and then maybe let it dry just a little bit. I should have started with this, done half, and then been able to kind of switch over, but you know, sometimes you don't think of those things. So just, as I said, trying to get like into kind of these spikes and all those sorts of things, just to we'll let it go. And you can just see like on this spike here how we got that nice shine, but it kind of comes in, it gets darkened, there's some rust here and there. It really does. It just adds to it. And now there's kind of all these layers of depth. I haven't cleared out all of my rust, but it's still there. And there will be one more step to these. So let it go. It'll also dry pretty fast, I have found. So we're gonna let that half sit there for a wee bit. And while that's doing that, and my thumb is pretty well coated. That was quite the runaway. Great thing about having a paper towel on your desk is I can kind of clean that up a bit. Okay. While we're doing that and letting that dry, I've had some stuff come in, hobby-wise. So let's do just a mini unboxing here. And such. So I've had two come in from what's now Steamforged Games. It's the mini crate of the month. So I know that that's what this one is. So we'll pull it out. I don't know what this is. This will be a surprise. I'm sure if I followed their pages a little bit closer, I would know exactly what this is, but I don't always get the time to follow the hobby stuff as much as I would like. Wow. Okay. So this is what we got. I'll bring it down here into this camera. Yeah. This is quite the figure. I think it's an Orgoth model. Just looking at it, but it looks good. A lot of detail. I will say, since Privateer Press and then Steamforged went to this 3D printing, I know that a lot of people were worried and concerned about it, but I have found that their prints are usually really pretty good. And the nice thing, especially when they're really good, is that the most I'm going to have to clean up is there's definitely some spots here where you can see like supports that are still here that need to be cleaned off. But a lot of times they're pretty easy to break off and just do a little scrape and you're good. And I'd almost rather deal with that than mold lines, because I often find that the supports are, you know, as I said, they're easy, they snap off, and you're not trying to erase a mold line and risk losing your detail. So yeah, this is quite the model and quite the hair on this thing. So wow, that's a neat piece. I never got into the Orgoth faction when they released the Orgoth. There's like one model that kind of I like the look of, but otherwise as a faction as a whole, not the most exciting, I guess. It just doesn't appeal to me, just that look and style. Okay, I do have another one from them, and it's again same thing. Let's see what they are offering this time. I actually recently ended my subscription for their mini crate. I just kind of found that I have a lot of their models and figures, and not that they're not great models and figures. There's just a lot of them, and I've had some other things that I wanted to use my hobby dollars on and such. So, kind of, really, it's been okay. And it's not, again, the models are great quality. They're a lot of times they're fun. Although I will say, kind of in this latest iteration, I haven't noticed quite the humor that Mini Crate used to have. Wow. Okay, this has got a lot of pieces to it. Let me find a safe spot to kind of deposit this. Okay. Wow. This is that almost fell into the shaded metallics. It did fall in the shaded metallics. It's got a little extra shine on it now. That's okay. We'll be fine. But look at this thing. This is kind of cool. It's like a giant mech, looks a bit like one part crab, one part spider. This thing is awesome. And it looks good. And so the things that are the other things that kind of came in, it looks like extra arms and attachments. So I'll have to figure out how it goes. I'm guessing like that arm goes up like that. The other arm or claw comes in like this, so it's got some kind of cool claw looks. And then this last piece looks like to be this other kind of forward arm. Yeah. Cool. A very cool miniature. As I said, I like what they're doing with them, and I like it. I think the biggest thing that I have an issue with is you see really cool things like this. In the old mini crate, you used to get a card with it that would tell you what the figure is. Here, I have one right up here. Let me. But yeah, they used to have these kind of collector cards that would show you the kind of the concept art, which was cool. But then on the back here, it would tell you like a little bit what it is. I always like the fact that it kind of came with the number and the year, maybe a little description, but it would also down here based on the original Mr. Walls from Warmachine, so that you knew that this Mrs. Walls was something that you could play instead of Mr. Walls, and just what it was based on, because they had a ton of miniatures in their line and you might not know. So I do kind of miss these, because things like this really cool crab mech, I can't even tell you what faction it is. And so I'm sure I could go and look it up, but I do kind of miss like knowing. They wouldn't even need to do like a fancy card, but even if there was some sort of just slip of paper or something that just told you what it is. So two, I like the spider crabby mech thing just a wee bit more, but and one last box, and then we should be able to move on with our terrain project. This one is not from Steamforged. This is from one of my favorite miniature companies. This is Reaper Miniatures. I did an order because it's Halloween. And when it's Halloween, you get a Reaper Ghoulie Bag. If you know, you know. If you don't, I'll show you. So to kind of do that, I made sure I kind of got a full order. So a lot of different things in here. They just had, back kind of at the end of the summer was ReaperCon, and they did a bunch of ReaperCon special miniatures. So I picked up all of those. I have here, let's make sure we get this, Sir Torin Male, the Kingslayer Knight. And as you can see, it's got a small base, but it's got this big scenic base attached to it. It's these things were pretty cool. I got, because it was October, their Maddie Oktoberfest Fräulein. So, you know, it's October. I should probably paint this thing up. Maybe the next episode of Howard's Cave of Wonder, we'll tackle Maddie the Oktoberfest Fräulein, out of the spirit of it. Even though technically it's October or Orktober. This one you're not going to be able to see real well, so future Howard will have to add a photo, but this is Sir Colred Ghost Champion, and it's this very cool translucent escaping ghost. But anyways, this really cool translucent kind of ghost king rising out of a graveyard miniature. Very cool. I wish you could kind of see it a little bit better. And we'll come back to that thing. Whenever with Reaper you order over a certain amount, you get a free miniature. I picked up this Bones Building Gus. I'll probably throw it in my box of duplicates that my kids can pick from for when they want to paint something. So if one of them wants to paint a ghost, they can paint a ghost. We have Sadraseth, the Vampire Queen. So there you can see her. And again, she's got kind of this epic graveyard base that, again, it's turned so you can't quite see it, but it's in there. Again, I'll put pictures of those up. And then there's this guy, Garvonk the Ghoul King. He's awesome. Again, you can see his big, massive base. But look at that thing. That thing's going to be fun. So much fun stuff. And then I had to kind of fill out my order. So kind of things I picked up. I picked up this Astrius, the Fire Peddler, which is not a Gandalf. Yeah, it's a little wizard, and he's hauling, if I can kind of turn it so you can see some fireworks. So we got him on there. And then I picked up from Chronoscope line there. This is Mira, the post-apocalyptic heroine. So this is a metal mini, but it's one of those. And that I picked up for a future project. So a different pile. Future project. And then they had this, which is so cute and so much fun. It's the Super Mythic Epic Shroom. I did not order this. This just they threw in, but it's a little, looks like mushroom guy dressed like a mummy. I gotta hide that one from my kids. They're gonna want those. And then the last thing that's in here, as I stated, is the Ghoulie Bag. And this time it's they've called it Eloin's Potion Pouch, featuring a special Halloween miniature and a sampling of ghoulish goodies. So we got some very interesting things in here. There is a Halloween miniature. There's, of course, some pixie sticks. Well, let's just open this up. That'll be easier. So, as I said, there we go. There is our Halloween mini. I'll put it down on this camera. A little bit easier to see. But it is Eloin and Nisi. So the little wolf guy. But I love that it comes with this kind of terrain post, the sign with the beehive and the crow up top. So just a very cool Halloween miniature. It came with 2 paints. We won't know what exactly they are because that one's a sample. So that could be just about anything. And that is a sample. So for those who don't know, when you order from Reaper, because they make their own paints, every now and then when they are making up a new batch or mixing a batch, if something doesn't quite turn out right, they don't waste the paint. They bottle it up and they put it in samples, and then they give these out just randomly in orders and such. What's interesting, especially like with this one, is there's a sticker under the sticker. So in theory, I could open that up and maybe see what it was meant to be. We'll see if I get to that. We got a couple of pixie sticks. So my kids will love that. This interesting bag of candy that's from some foreign country. That's kind of cool. A little bee sticker. I need to really, I've got all these cool stickers. I really need to come up with a good place to put all of these on some case or that. And then a green mushroom, which I feel like it comes apart. Oh my gosh. It's a little mushroom pen. Yeah, so he does it like that, and it goes on like that. But yeah, it's a little green mushroom. Oh, and you can extend it into an actual pen. Oh, I guarantee I'm gonna have some fun with that. On the next episode of Beer Blues and BS, the podcast I do. Let's just set that guy up there so I can remember that. Anyway, let's get back to Shade Metallics now that I've shown off. But yeah, the Reaper Ghoulie Bag, always so much fun. One of my favorite things they do in the year, followed right up by their Christmas minis that they do. Okay, so this side is dry, so we can flip it over, and before I maybe get too far into it, so you can look and you can kind of see the difference. So this is the shaded side over here and the non-shaded side. So you can still see that there's a lot of the oranges and yellows really shining through. And here on this side, they're still there. You can still see some of that rust and such coming through, but it's just a little bit different. But yet it's still very, very shiny, but very kind of shaded, and I do love it. So let's put some on this side, and just, as I said, to me it's a nice little wash. And if you want, after this, you could still come through, and I probably will with these, and do just a little bit of highlighting on this to kind of maybe hit some points back. And I could do that as just a dry brush, or I could come in and just be very detailed where there's some scratches and things like that. That's like, oh, that should be highlighted up a little bit more. But I love the feel of what this does. As I said, it makes it shiny. It makes it kind of dulled out a little bit. So it's to me, it's a great technique. One other thing you can do with it is, if you take a cloth and kind of go back over it a little bit, you can, like if you have too much excess, it'll help kind of pull some of that off. Let's say I can fix this mistake. Like I got all this orange way in this crevice, and so I can dump kind of a lot of the shade in there and help just bring it back down. So right in kind of there, just lop it in a little bit more if I don't like how orangey and such it is. But yeah, just kind of coming through. It's helping, just as I said, fill in those dents, those depressions, and at the same time, we'll put on a nice protective coat for it. So there we go. That side is done. Pillar is still drying there in the background. So there we go. Some nice shaded metallics. Got those done. Give them a little bit, and they will hopefully be done. Ready to go over to my little photo booth and some photos. I do need to go in, as I said, and hit a few little points. I should share. If you saw the last video, you got to watch my struggles as I tried to assemble this Knives of the Crone faction. Just as an update, I did finish them. I took the kit to work and finished it on my lunch break and got the last 2 models going with nowhere near the drama of what happened last video. And if you don't know what I'm talking about with what happened last video, go back. It was an excellent showcase in hobby fail and what happens when you fail in the hobby. And just if you ever want to feel good, if you're having a bad hobby day, go watch that. I put the chapter headings down below for where like the struggle and the disasters occur, and you can watch the joy just fall out as I was what should have been just a really simple video just went screwy with problems. But it's okay. These might just become my my new like villain faction. I did also, while I was at work, because it is October, I worked on an orc faction that I had for it as well. You know what? They went together really easy and fine, and they look great. And here's a photo so that you can see those. So yeah, getting some orcs done, which is great because the old painting desk is getting a little rough and full of stuff, and I need to paint more, talk less. Let's do a little work on Bruce, shall we? So with Bruce, as a little status update, so he's been sitting here waiting patiently. So where am I with him as I kind of bring myself to this project? So I've added the texture to him, and I do like it. It looks good. I do think maybe I should. I'm debating if I should go like one more kind of highlight up on him, just because my next thing will be to kind of apply a little bit of a wash to him to kind of, and then wash is right. I'm going to glaze a color over it to kind of blend it in. So I kind of feel like I need to do that. But one of the things that I've been debating about is his underbelly here, because he's got all this texture here, and I painted it white right off the bat, and I maybe should have gone with a bit more of a gray and worked up, but I didn't. So in this case, I think I need to put a bit of wash to help put in some of these folds and such, so that I can kind of, again, I can come back and re-highlight. So that's what I think I'm going to do. And I'm going to go, I have this game color wash, this pale gray. I think I'm just going to try and hit along his belly and that, and just hopefully it's dark. I'm going with a really light because I don't really want to overly stain my white, but I feel like I need to put a little bit of definition into it. So we'll give that a mix. And I debated whether I should do it in a blue or in a gray. And when I looked at photos of great white sharks, especially breaching great white sharks, blue wasn't quite the right shade. The interesting thing is great white sharks, when they come out, they have they're a very wet texture to them. And so it makes it hard. They don't, they're very reflective on that bottom side. You don't get a lot of shade or shadow. And I debated, blue, gray, or even a brown, I thought about for a little bit, but just could not find something that I was like 100% woohoo, this is the thing. So we're going to try a little gray here. I feel like that's just maybe a little thick. And we're just going to give Bruce a little love. I do really want to get Bruce done and off the table. I really should call him Mini Bruce, because Big Bruce is back there. We're just going to kind of come in. And again, I'm hoping that this will put just enough of a darkness to it. That, again, I will come back in and highlight up my white, but it kind of just bring it down to where I think it probably should have been the first time. So we'll give him a coat and probably let him sit and dry. And I'm also, just in case you're wondering, not going to worry too much if I get this gray wash like elsewhere, like on the upper part of his body and such. That's okay. Like even as I come in like up here around his gills and that, because it's not going to have quite the effect up there and even into his jawline a little bit. It's just going to add a little shade and shadow. But yeah, I'm already kind of liking the effect this is having. It's definitely helping with that white, and it might not show up real well on camera, but it's a nice kind of change. So, and then it'll be up to me to go in and highlight that white back up. I remember when I thought I could finish this model in a single video. Okay, Bruce, you get to chill for a little bit. My other things are still drying. That's the thing, drying time. I know I could probably use a bit of a like a hair dryer or something like that to speed up that process, but It's not gonna work. While I have this gray, and it's like I pulled, because this is what I tend to do, and it's part of why I have so many miniatures here. When I get stuck on something, like I'm waiting for these pieces to dry, I'll take especially if I have a color that'll work on something else, I'll pull that thing off and do that. So you might remember this guy. He's a half-orc monk that I worked on a couple videos ago when I was dealing with some insomnia. Anyway, he's got this fur lining around this one pad that could use some shading. I have this gray. I think that will work very well. So I'm taking a smaller brush. Probably not that brush though. I just realized it was one of my really good brushes. Let's grab this a little bit brush, and we're just going to kind of come in and hopefully drop a little shade and color onto this fur patch. I'm not spending a ton of time on it because to me it's not one of the main features of this model, but it's a detail. So I want to just, as I said, shade it down. I'll come back in probably the same time I highlight Bruce and just touch him up and add some more stuff to him. But once I have it already mixed up and good to go, we'll do that. And the nice thing is it'll add it, just adding that gray, because kind of the rest of like his wraps and such have a different coloration. It's going to help it stand out as a little different. I do wish it was a little darker for this, but we'll see. If I'm not too happy with it, I can always add something else to it to change. So he's coming along well. I still need to do some glazing on his pants and his tabard. I did spot while I was looking, there's a little spot here on his wrap where I got some green to cross over. So I just need to kind of hit that with something else. Yeah, the red tassels need just a bit of touch up. I need to do his hair yet. But after that, I want to glaze on his bottle back here. I complete those things and this guy's done. So he's looking pretty good. But I'm going to keep this rolling. We're getting other models done and dusted, and that's great. And so let's pull another guy down. I have this guy. He is a druid. This was a Reaper Miniatures figure. And kind of similar story. I work on him when I get a chance. He's pretty close to done. I've highlighted his shirt. His pants are good. I've even done his eyes. His face looks good. I really just kind of have to do like the handle of his sword. There's a few little pieces kind of tucked in here that need a little bit of love, but I have, as you can see, he's got that sword and kind of this sai weapon on here that are bright and shiny. And you know what I got mixed up? I got some shaded metallics that are just screaming to help me out with this. And it's good because that's kind of been the theme of the video. There's been shaded metallics, so let's shade some things. Got to give my metallics mix a little bit of a stir. It settled out some. So yeah, you can kind of tell because that just went on really kind of flat. So I just add a little water to my brush. So and just to kind of show it off. So like here, where I've gone really heavy on it, this is where again you can take just kind of a paper towel. And see, I just kind of went back up along it, and it just took some of that off and allowed me to focus that paint kind of where I wanted to, like along his hilt here. You could also just take a not quite so dirty brush. Like I just cleaned this one off real quick and just kind of, again, push it where you want it. And you don't have to necessarily always use kind of a big brush for it. I got my little brush here that I was using just a little bit ago, and I can come in and, again, cleaning a chunk of it off. And I might try to, again, focus in on those spots that should be more shaded, like kind of on the inside here. We'll hit a little bit more of that area. The underside. And again, I can go back in with my color and reestablish any highlights that I feel like I have wiped out. I'm just literally trying to shade it so that it looks good. And here's the other kind of neat thing about this. So I have kind of a bluey one. I have a kind of a blue mix going. And like I've been using it here on silver a lot, but if you look closely at this guy and look up at the skull here, it's got some bronze and such to it. And I can actually bring that in, and again, using my little brush, and maybe I'm focusing more on just the bottom of just adding in, again, a little bit of shading to these chunks of metal that he's like wearing around his neck and such here. Just again trying to add some even on the hilt of his sword, which I gave kind of a goldish color. I can come in, hit the underside of that, and just trying to, again, add some color, add some interest to him. And that looks pretty good. And that blue off of that kind of gold will work well. So another mini getting the love. Okay. So I wanted to, as I said before, kind of I wrap this up, I want to just show off a little bit. My sphere is still kind of going. So now that I have this, and I can show it off here, and you can see it's got a nice kind of shine to it and all of that. But I might want it to bring out a few pieces. So I'm going to grab and I'm just going to do a few on here, just so you can see. But I'm just grabbing, in this case, some tarnished steel, because tarnished steel compared to my original, like honed steel is a little bit lighter, but they're really close. Oh, it helps if I actually put on camera. Come on, Howard. They're really, really close. I mean, honed steel is lighter than tarnished steel, but because I have applied a shade to it, if I go straight back to the honed steel, I fear it would be too bright. You know, I find that happens a lot when you kind of, after you've done a wash, you then go back and you try to like reestablish with your original like base color, and it's such a stark that you almost kind of hate the shading. It just doesn't work. And so one thing I have found in just my painting is I either need to mix in a bit of the wash into my original color just to kind of get it shaded right, or I find if I have a shade of paint that maybe is, you know, kind of in between the wash and the what you'd call your base, I can kind of make some adjustments. So I've just taken some of that tarnished steel, put it in, and really all I want to do is I want to find kind of those edges and just do like a simple edge highlight. I'm just kind of running the side of my brush along that edge, just highlighting it a little bit. And with something like this, I could be as picky or such as I wanted. I might say, gosh, I want to put I'm bumping the camera, I realized. I want to put this highlight everywhere. I might also look at it and go, nah, I maybe just want to hit really what I think are the high points of it. Maybe I want to leave some of these spots a little bit more faded or shadowed or along those lines. So just, again, applying just a little bit of highlight here and there where I maybe feel like I want that touch. You could also use it to add in, and I'll just do it like little scratches if I wanted to add some scratches. And you can see it's this particular shade is just, it's not so bright that it's blowing out all the work we did, but it's adding just enough to it that it has just a really nice little highlight and helps catch the edge. And so again, I can spend as much time as I want, but adding in maybe little scratches, you know, things like that just, again, help sell maybe some of the illusion of what I'm trying to do with this. Again, I'm not going to hit like every circle or every place like that. I just want to hit those little spaces to really make it, again, just adding those details in, giving it that little bit of shine. I can come in on these globes and just put in just a little bit. You know, I would definitely hit all of these spike points with a little bit, because they should be a little bit on the pointy side. You know, they're probably the part that hits the mechs or the people the most. And so just hitting them with a little bit go a long ways. So I'm going to sit and work on that, and don't worry, I'm not going to make you watch every little bit of that. Future Howard, he'll put up some pictures of these as they are finished for, hey, your own comment and like. But that really brings me to kind of it. I have more little stuff that I'm going to work on as I have a bit of time before the family gets back home. But I do appreciate all of you who have been here and joined me on this video. Hopefully you had a good time. Hopefully you did some hobbying while I was hobbying. And hopefully that was a bit of successful hobbying. If you made it this far, thank you very much. If you liked this content, feel free to give me a like and a subscribe. You don't have to, but it's greatly appreciated, as I'm a small YouTube channel just trying to grow and, you know, have some more people see. And with that, you know, I'm not going to spend a lot of time hyping a lot of other things. Let's just call it a day, and hopefully we'll catch all of you back down here in the cave again next time. Good night, everybody.